What is today always has been. Hey everyone, it is John Cheplak coming to you on Saturday morning at 7:48 Pacific Standard Time. And we are in changing times, that's no mystery. But what I want to talk to you about is what truly is today always has been. And what I mean by this, and I want you to think about two things and write these two things down. You know, we always have circumstances, and by no means minimizing the circumstance that we're in. And if you look at whether it's in life choices that we make, or if we are a business leader, we are working with buyers and sellers of maybe it's, whatever it may be. Many of us are salespeople. Most of the people that I connect with are in the real estate industry, but I get the privilege of working with many people outside of the industry. And one of the things that I want you to really take a look at is needs and circumstances. And I'm going to come back around to that. But let's take a look at the current space and time that we're in. It's been a couple weeks. For some longer, some a shorter time frame. It's been where we've had a higher impact and changing by the day, and it's a reality. And by no means do I minimize things. I think I know I look at things from a space of duality, and I think there's a lot of great input that a lot of people are coming forward. What's really neat is seeing all the brilliant minds that have really come forward and sharing their input, and maybe there's some things that I can share with you that I think you can find really helpful. But I think the most important thing that I want you to hold on to is the actual simplicity in what steps you need to take. And not only the steps to take today in this current space and time, maybe it's going to pull you back. I take a look at what's the experience that we're going through right now, and where it's pretty easy for me to walk through this. And here's what I mean, easy to walk through it. And when I'm talking about easy walking through it, I've got the personal environment, as we all do, our personal experiences going through this, but also in the business space, as I'm working with top individual agents, as I'm working with CEOs of multi-office organizations, as I'm working with top team leaders. The number one thing that we have to look at, so, there's needs. We all have personal needs. The people we're working with have a need of maybe a home to buy or to move or whatever that may be. But what we've got to look at is what is our circumstance right now. If you're in the real estate industry, maybe 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, it was sales skepticism. Okay, sales skepticism's always been there, and you know what people have always tried to do is sell people out of sales skepticism, or wait for the objection to handle them, instead of, watch this principle, meeting them where they're at, seeking first to understand, then be understood. See, what we fall victim to in a sales environment is, and in life, we all can, to what's sexy and what sounds good and what sounds the greatest. And in the end, what happens there is a lot of times in relationships, a lot of times in businesses, we end up having to go so wide because it's not rooted in principles. It's not rooted in human behavior. We end up going so wide, we're diluted. And here's what I know in literally working with the best in the world, and it's documented, is they may be wide, but they only go as wide as far as they are deep. They're going deep. And so, I hear people talk about shift, change, pivot. The only things that have shifted, the only people that have to shift, change, and pivot are the people that were shooting past the target. They weren't connected with the community. They weren't operating in this principle of entering the conversation going on in the avatar's head. Okay, they weren't meeting people where they were at. Okay, they weren't showing empathy all the time. It was the next tricky thing to say, the next salesy thing to say. See, here's the deal right now. We had sales skepticism. Well, you don't objection handle out them. You handle the objection in advance. You handle the objection in advance. It feels better and works better. Let's go back to human behavior. The number one way to get a human being to make a choice, make a change, or move into greater productivity is self-discovery. So why keep fighting human nature? That's the difference between good and great and elite. That is the difference between good and great and elite. So now let's visit uncertainty. Good luck. Good luck selling and objection handling someone out of uncertainty. So first, as a salesperson, you look in the real estate industry, we had sales skepticism. It's always been there, always will be. Okay? Personally, I think it's been handled wrong. And looking at the people that I work with and the type of business they do, I think we're focusing on and handling it right. Now we've got a cherry on top of it. Now we've got uncertainty. Well, what's my new objection handler? What's my new script? What's my new dialogue? No, you can't sell people out of it. Okay? You can't objection handle them out of it. You must reassure them. You must reassure them. And how do you reassure people? You know, you think about the three most important subjects for the human being: me, myself, and I. All right? Then you also come to understand and go back to the principle: the heart chooses, the mind justifies. So in our personal life and in business, when there is an emotion that's rising up in a human being, they are paralyzed. They can't make a choice. But typically what happens is people go to the logic. Let me give you an example. But rates are good and inventory's this, and go into the logic. And what's happening is it may work, but I'm going to tell you something. In changing times that are really, I look at things that happen, and by no means dismissing it, we're being called to principles. We're being called to be better. I'm being called to be a better human. We're being called to be a better professional as a leader, a better professional as a real estate agent. You know, everyone talks about community, yet I'm seeing everyone rush out to the community. Where were you before? Yet, you know what I've found? And it's great. Listen, we can always have this consciousness moment, no judgment to it, but think about these things, okay? While at the same time, I'm watching the people I work with, they've been out in the community, they've got their message right. See, marketing is meeting people where they're at. See, it's being relevant. And talking about a real estate transaction, talking about selling more real estate isn't relevant 95% of the time, and it creates a condition where people are having to scramble. See, that's the reason that we get ranked up there, you know, with used car salespeople and attorneys and things like that. Okay? Again, self-discovery is the number one way to get a human being to make a choice, make a change, move into higher productivity. And so, you know, a couple of really neat things have evolved in this. Think about this. All of a sudden, people are reaching out to their past clients in the way that we're supposed to. See, nurture, in my opinion, that old nurture definition, I think it was put to rest. It's been a blessing, because nurture was ambush. Nurture was, I'm reaching out to you to get something in return. What's happening right now, and it's what we've always done and believed in, is nurturing is reaching out, not expecting something in return. Reaching out with a general care and concern. You want to know what's interesting? As I've been asked outside of my coaching group, I was asked to go into a brokerage. A brokerage firm says, hey, listen, you know, we're challenged right now. How do we go through this? I said, well, you need to get rid of all those scripts and dialogues. And you need to talk about buying and selling. You need to stop talking about interest rates. And what you need to do is need to get on the phones, because the really good news is you're committed to reaching out to people and doing a lot of prospecting. But what you need to do is just ask people how they're doing and ask if there's anything you can do personally. That's it. And you know what was really remarkable is I got a phone call back a week later and said, all of my mega prospectors, mega producers are coming back and saying, why weren't you doing this all along? So I share that with you to just really encourage you. That's why things are the same. See, we've all heard know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust. How much focus is really put into the activities to allow someone to really get to know us, to allow someone to really trust us? Well, part of trusting, I think, is is making, and these are things that I've always said. That's why going through these times and supporting leaders and supporting agents is really, really easy for me, because I just go back to these things. Constantly make deposits in the business relationship equity account. Constantly make deposits in the emotional equity account. See, the challenge is, and then again, another old principle is detach from the outcome, attached to the process. And my hope is right now, because I'm seeing this massive shift, and I'm seeing a scramble. Oh, we've got to change. Well, no, you wouldn't have had to change, and it's great, and I want to see it happen, and it's elevating our industry. It's about elevating our world. As I go out and about and watch people, people smile more. People are more open. What's interesting in times like this, circumstances, the walls come down. In circumstances in business, the walls have to come down, because you've got to truly connect with people at a human level. What's happening is agents are reaching out more to their past clients and from a place of care and compassion. Broker, owner, managers are reaching out to their agents, like having more conversations than they've had literally in years. It's our number one thing when we look at leading brokerages. This is stuff we've always done, is I'm obsessed with, and it's a question I ask leaders. Tell me, number one, what is you've got a system for lead gen and lead conversion and drip campaigns and all those type of things. Tell me about your system for acknowledging the human beings consistently. Tell me how you're creating psychological and emotional bonds. And let me take you to the logic of business that has to do with numbers. And people always talk about, well, it's the split, it's the fee, it's the revenue share, it's the profit share, it's the stock. Well, I don't know. It's and I've kind of got proof. If it was that, one would have put everyone out of business. And I've been saying it forever. I hope people connect with that. It's like the concern of the commissions that are being charged out there to buyers and sellers. Well, some people get a certain amount, others get another one amount, and there's all kinds of excuses. Well, here's what I know too. 32 years later in the real estate business, it's still the same. It's the person that creates those deep psychological and emotional bonds. It's the people that get others to know them truly at a deep level, get people to like them truly at a deep level, and get them to trust them truly at a deep level. Now, I have an unfair advantage, I think, over people and I bring this forward, and I bring forward what I have put into play, put into action personally, have seen results, and then also seen my clients have amazing results. I tell people I had a kind of an unfair advantage, because there was a time in my life 11, 12 years ago where I had nothing to offer anyone but hopefully support. And it was a time when I felt I couldn't really support people because it was a pretty low place. But I was told that there's always someone you can support. And then I mentioned this a week ago on a video that I did, and I just want to really reiterate it. And it's that ability to go into something and expecting nothing. But let me qualify that. Expecting that when you go into something and you're providing something of value to someone, you're making deposits in a relationship. The transactional part of it, it's going to take care of itself. It may not happen right there. And you can call it kumbaya, you can call it what you want, but it's proven. And people that live by this will tell you, have you ever seen the person that their business is kind of disheveled and maybe they don't have the technology you have, maybe they don't have the tools. See, that's what I say. See, sure, the vehicles have changed, but the people that stay in principle and deep human connection, they just thrive. But you've seen that agent, or you've seen that leader too, where that leader, you may say, gosh, how is that person a leader? But people they just follow them, and there's just no way you're going to get them away from them, and they perform at the highest level because they're staying rooted in basic human principles. They're rooted in basic human principles. They know they are in the moment creation business. They know that they are in the human experience business. They know that also what's most important in that is this. And now today, what I really want to encourage you to do is understand is managing your emotions, continually working on emotional maturity, continually working on emotional intelligence is the piece that's going to create an epic experience in businesses. And listen, I get the numbers. I know the numbers. I've done budgets, performance projections, and if you think that I haven't done enough budget evaluations over the last 2 weeks with some changing times, believe me, I've seen enough spreadsheets to last me a lifetime. I get them. But, the numbers and or the new technology and the new way you have to do something, the things that are changing along with the analytics and numbers, none of those matter. If we don't meet people where they're at, we don't enter the conversation going on in their head, if we don't have empathy, if we're not relatable, if we're not constantly taking care of our person first, taking care of our person meaning physically, but also working on and recognizing where our emotions may teeter a little bit, working on our emotional intelligence, working on our emotional maturity, and then bringing that forward into all of our affairs in those that we lead, all of our affairs in those that we interact with, buyers and sellers, all of our affairs at home, and then making sure that we're around people that subscribe to that and subscribe to the truth. And the last thing that I want to share with you is veracity. Seeking the truth and adhering to the truth. Seeking the truth and adhering to the truth. And these are, principles that have always been there. But what happens in a time like this is they get illuminated. There's an illumination in the darkness of these things that maybe we moved away from. In the sales business, we can get so into, this is great and that's great and you should, and talking at people instead of talking with them. See, the brilliant human being on the planet is not the one that gives the most information. The brilliant human being on this planet is the one that asks the most thought-provoking questions, that allows each and every one of us, allows me to go within myself and maybe discover something that I already had in me or that I already knew, or bring something forward that I didn't know was there. And if we stay in that space of veracity and in that relentless pursuit of the truth, and staying in those principles of being relatable and having empathy and meeting people where we're at, we're going to have a really good experience. The final piece I want to share with you is this: is with uncertainty. Know this. I know that at this current space and time, with the unknown, anything can happen. But when's the last time I checked? Anything can happen any day of the week. It always can. Is there may be some people that in the current space, if they're being impacted, and certainly a massive empathy. I've been in places where I haven't been prepared. I want to encourage you to know this. If you're in a space where you're concerned about next month or next week, it's okay. Don't judge it, but use it as a contrast and a lesson. So, because what happens is right now, it would be easy for people, when we're not prepared for something, to move into panic. And panic is going to paralyze you and shut you down. Recognize maybe where you didn't have urgency. See, if I'm in a panic mode right now, typically in my life or in my business, there was a place historically where I didn't keep urgency. Now, I don't mean stress, but an urgency around my health, an urgency around my business. I got a little bit comfortable. And I'm not saying be a machine. I'm talking about living a whole life. Urgency is that thing that keeps us charged up. For example, a real estate agent that has all kinds of business going, and buyers and sellers and escrows, and they close escrows, and all of a sudden they have nothing going on. They're in panic mode. Well, how come they're in panic mode? Because they didn't keep the urgency of the activities that got them there. I want you to remember that, and that's what I'm going to leave you with. If you're in a space of panic, it's okay. Don't judge it. Be a witness, not a judge, because if you dismiss it or you resist it, it's going to persist. You've heard that old cliche too. See, all these great quotes and cliches, this is all that matters. the most important thing is each one of us is unique. Each one of us is magical. And we can show up as ourselves if we just come back to the basic principles. Home run hitters are paid $30 to $35 million a year, maybe $40 million a year to hit a home run in Major League Baseball. And day one, they go to spring training and they hit the ball off the tee. I hope that as you're going through these times, you go back to hitting the ball off the tee. Sure, there's changing, there's new vehicles and technology and ways we have to do things, but bring the principles of swinging the bat. Bring the principles of hitting the ball off the tee, okay? As we go through these changing times. And you're going to go through it with calmness. And it's real important that you go through this with a lot of calmness, because each and every one of us is a leader. We're either a leader in our family, we're a leader of other human beings in a business we have. If you're a real estate agent or you're a boss somewhere, you're a leader of other folks. And the number one thing that can reassure people is them seeing your certainty. I hope you all have a really great weekend. I hope you're all staying very safe and healthy. I hope that as you go through both emotions, love and fear. There's only two. There's only two. And there's some fear, and it's okay. Don't tell someone, the quotes will come out, and heck, I'll even say, don't be afraid. Maybe that's that motivational John messaging. And I know we all have some fear. And what's really good to do is to just experience the fear, but see it as the contrast. How can I move over into love? I can love the fact that I've talked about boundaries. Now I've got boundaries around me. I'm getting a chance to look at boundaries a little bit closer. We all are. So honor this time, honor one another. And I appreciate all of you that are putting a lot of positivity out there. And let's just keep doing it. I mean, again, there's circumstances and there's needs. And we all need to be loved and supported. And we're in a circumstance that's allowing us the greatest opportunity to love and support one another, because in a circumstance that we're in on a global scale, all the walls come down. The walls come down and allow us to really connect. I guess the key piece is illuminate those foundational principles, and let's move through this together and keep those walls down, and as we thrive from here, because as we go through this, here, a good old saying, I think, I don't know, it was Wayne Dyer that said it, no, I think Gary Zukav said it to me. I remember now being in the room with him when he said this, was you got to go through it to get to it. I'm sure a million people have said it, but I think it was Gary that had said that to me. So, there's something different that we all want from where we're sitting right now. But we've got to go through it and put all your power in the current moment. If you put all of your power in the current moment, you're going to get rid of stress. Stress is worrying about something that hasn't happened. So much love to you all. Hug and kiss your babies. Hug and kiss. Well, maybe there's a human resource laws. Don't kiss your employees. You can hug them. Be careful. Anyways, have a great day.